All right, thanks for joining us for part two for databases using Supabase. So we're going to continue the build out of our learning management system. And today's focus will be connecting tables together using foreign keys. So if you followed along from our last course, our last lesson that we had in this course, we went about creating a table called courses. And here we added another table called lessons. And before we get into linking tables together with foreign keys, what I'm going to do is just come over here to the database. And you see a lot of different options that we have with Supabase here on the left-hand side. But with the database, this gives us what's called an entity relationship diagram for the database. And what this is doing is describing the relationship between different tables. So you see the courses table that we have with the fields that we created and the lessons table as well. And as we link the tables together, in this entity relationship diagram, it's going to show us how those tables are linked. So if you've used another tool like Airtable in the past, when you're linking tables together, what it will do is create fields in both tables. So if we were to link the lessons and the courses table together, it would create a field in the lessons table and a field in the courses table. And there's an option to select if you can have multiple items within that field. So the idea there is it's describing the relationship between courses and lessons. And in Airtable, a lesson could be tied to multiple courses, or vice versa. A course could be tied to multiple lessons. With Postgres systems, and Supabase is built on top of Postgres, so with an actual database, there's not the ability to link multiple records together between those two tables. If you wanted to do that, you would have to separate those out into what's called a junction table. So we'll be getting into junction tables in our next lesson. But to tie these two tables together, the first thing that we need to understand is what does the relationship look like? And when we're describing relationships, it's can there be one or many record connected to a table. So in the case of courses and lessons, a course is going to have multiple lessons, but a lesson can only be associated with one course. And so what we would describe this relationship as being is one to many. One course has many lessons. If you can also describe it in the opposite way. Many lessons can be associated with one course. But the reason that's important to identify is it's going to determine how we set up the foreign key within this database structure. And so the rule of thumb is that the foreign key is always going to go in the many side of the relationship. So in this case, the lessons table is going to get the foreign key, linking it to the course. And all that a foreign key is the ID of one table that's saved in the linked table. So to show you how this is done, let's go to the table editor, and I'm going to edit the lessons. So I'm going to insert a column here, and I'm going to call this course ID. So this is the convention. I'm calling the foreign key the name of the key in the other table. So we use the table name and then the field name, the ID of that table as the linked record, or in this case, the foreign key field name. So the data type here with a foreign key, it's always going to be an int8 because we're referring to some sort of ID that's being generated. If you use a UUID with text, you could also have it be text or a varchar, but in our case, it's going to be an integer. So it should be the same data type as the field in the linked table. And then you see here with the foreign key, we can add the foreign key and we can reference courses. And then it's going to say what field in the lessons table is going to be linked to how are the fields linked between the two tables. So in lessons, we have the course ID field. In the courses table, we have the ID field. So it just makes it really easy to keep track of IDs, primary IDs, and then also foreign key IDs. There's some additional options down here of what to do when a row is updated. So the idea here is if a course is updated, should that update the lessons table as well? In this case, we do want it. And then same if it's removed. So it'll remove the reference to it if it's deleted here. it'll actually delete the record if the course is deleted. So in this case, we do want it to cascade because if a course is deleted, we want its lessons to be deleted as well, as opposed to standing out there. There's a lot of principles that we'll cover in future lessons that we'll talk about that, because when you're creating an application, it's actually best to just have a field that marks it as inactive as opposed to actually deleting it. But during the test phase, as you're building it out, very important to have these correct so that you don't have dangling records. So I'll go ahead and save that. And with the constraints here, it's a foreign key. A lesson has to have a course. So I'm going to uncheck this, the allow nullable, and then we'll go ahead and save. And here, now I can insert a record and we can say learning, we'll just call this foreign keys in Supabase. And we have the description and the video link, which I'll populate later. Those aren't required at this moment, but the course ID is required. And Supabase has a nice way to link those together. So I can select the record and then it shows me the table. And then if I needed to, I could sort, but I'm just going to select that first record here. And so that way the course ID you see is linked to the course that I had created during my last video, and I can go ahead and save. And now I also have I can come in and see the details by clicking this arrow. So Supabase makes it nice to view data really quickly. Wouldn't recommend keeping your data updated in this way. And this is really the purpose of Supabase is if you're going to use a low-code tool like NoLoco to build out an application or softer, or if you're going to build a full-fledged application. And one of the cool things that can be done is you can have a database connected to multiple systems. So if you have an internal system with NoLoco or Softer, you can also have a public-facing web application that an engineering team is working on. So there can be multiple interfaces tied to one database. But Supabase, more often than not, is going to be for a production level system, and you're not going to be interacting with the data in this view outside of the initial setup. It does make it a lot easier to set up as opposed to going directly to Postgres. So with these steps, if you're coming in to this through YouTube, check us out at cerebral.com for the full course. And then if you need help setting this up, or if you have projects that you're working on that you need additional help from engineers, visit us at autogreatconsultants.com, and you can get in contact with us, schedule some time for us to help with any issues that you have, or talk about other projects that we could assist with. So great seeing you, and we'll see you on our next discussion talking about junction tables.